Welcome to Backstage with Jeffrey Morrissey. I am Jeffrey Morrissey. I am joined by Kevin Barnes of Montreal. Kevin, thank you so much for making the time today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So let's see. You are out on tour right now. It's a shorter run of shows from what I understand. How's everything been going so far, getting to play some of these songs live again?
It's been good. I mean, we've been kind of just touring. I mean, not nonstop, but we haven't really taken an extended break since the last album, Innocence Reaches, came out. So we were just over in Europe a couple months ago, or maybe a month ago. And so, yeah, just been working on the new album in between tours and things like that.
Are you someone that can work on the album on the road, or do you have to be like home in order to do that?
Yeah, pretty much at home to be making music. I write some lyrics on the road, but for the most part, music all happens when I'm in one place.
Nice. And now, so the album which we mentioned, Innocent Reaches, brilliant album. If you could describe it in one word, how would you what word would you attach to it?
Transitional, maybe.
And how did you arrive at that one?
Well, it just reflects the changes that are going on in my personal life. So I went through, a pretty heavy breakup period a couple years ago, and then just started to kind of piece my life back together when I was working on Innocence Reaches. It feels more hopeful to me, and now I'm in a way more hopeful state of mind. So I feel like that was just a way for me to get from the darker place to the more optimistic, positive place.
And then, so getting to a better place, do you think that happened through the music, or did it just sort of happen parallel to the music, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just happened outside of the music, and then the music is going to reflect what my state of mind is.
Now, the first song on that record, it's called Let's Relate, which is one of my favorite tracks, an awesome name. How do you find is your best way to relate to people?
Well, I guess, yeah, you have to get outside of yourself and sort of remove any insecurities that you have or any sort of preconceived notions you might have about a person that you're looking at, and whether you mean to or not, you're going to be judging the other person or kind of placing them in sort of a classification in your mind. Like, I think it's just a natural thing that the human brain does. So you kind of have to like transcend that, I think, and really get into a very empathetic state of mind. I mean, it's easy when someone is just organically feels like someone that you can identify with right away. But if someone feels like their culture is very different, their background is very different, their life experience is very different, then it takes a little bit more effort. But I think that's mainly it. Yeah, just like I was thinking about it, just like insecurity is the biggest hurdle for us to get over. This feeling of fear for whatever reason. Like, we're kind of just simple animals, so it takes a lot maybe for people to be totally open and not fearful and not insecure and not viewing other people as a threat. I mean, some people are threatening, but like white supremacists are obviously very threatening, but most people aren't threatening. And even the white supremacists individually aren't totally hopeless creatures. Like, they could always be changed. They could always have some epiphany and realize like what a piece of shit they've been and change their ways. It's always possible.
And I think that this song, in a very like broad sense, does a very good job of sort of capturing that sort of essence of being able to relate to people, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very optimistic and positive song, and very inclusive, and just like, I know, what I try to do, I mean, like in that song, especially now, because I've been dressing in drag and like doing this sort of very theatrical production. Yeah, we had a very theatrical production. So it fits in a way because I'm like on stage looking like a real outcast in a way, because like I wouldn't necessarily walk down the street wearing the clothes that I'm wearing on stage. So I feel like in a way it puts me in a very vulnerable place, but at the same time, I think when someone's willing to step out in that way and show that, yeah, it's not really that dangerous, or it's not really that out there to just put on some lipstick, like that's the funniest thing I think about culture in general. I mean, like globally, it's still like most men are very uptight about having any sort of feminine aspect to the way they dress or how they act or how they move their arms or whatever, like
Hmm.
it's like really strict what men can do. And it's funny how like it's a very simple thing to just put on lipstick and go to the grocery store and everyone's going to stare at you. Like, oh my God, your lips are a different color. I didn't expect them to be that color. That's not the normal color. It's so crazy, like how uptight we are. Like when you think about like how intense the conformity is, that what we're trying to do, what I'm trying to do, is like create an environment where people can do just that simple little thing, putting on lipstick. Like women can, wear things that they wouldn't normally wear. Men can wear things they wouldn't normally wear, and go to this place and just bug out for a little bit and have fun with it. And I think it's super healthy. It's definitely healthy for me because I don't really have the same. I don't feel like I have the same macho hang-ups that a lot of men seem to have. That's really crippling in a lot of ways.
And then it's almost like your vulnerability in a way becomes a strength for other people, or sort of like a safer space in the show for other people as well, which I think is sort of something really interesting of the transition of that sort of emotion or feeling from one person to another.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's just like anything. Like I'm reading Malcolm X's autobiography, and of course he's like coming from a completely different life experience from me, but I'm learning from him, learning from James Baldwin, and learning from people who have had a totally different, who have a totally different worldview because of their life experience, and it's courageous for people to stand out and like let their voice be heard, and yeah, make themselves vulnerable in that way. Like yeah, I could get, I never know, like we could pull up to some venue and it could be filled with hateful, homophobic psychos and they could kick our asses, but so far, knock on wood, it hasn't happened.
It won't happen in Boston, at least. And then, so if you, when I sort of look at the Of Montreal catalog, there's so many albums there. You guys have been really prolific, or I should say you have been. For someone who's just sort of starting out with the band, where should they start? What album should they pick up first? Do you recommend going chronologically? Are there any to skip over? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because I skip over most of them, I mean, I like making them, and I'm proud of the recordings for sure, but I can't really say like, oh, this one's better than this one, because they're all very personal. So it's kind of, for me, some of them I might have a hard time listening to because it brings me back to a difficult time in my life, and other ones might feel more lighthearted and fun. So like, oh yeah, pick that one, but that might not be the best one for someone to get into or to feel. So maybe, I mean, Hissing Fauna is our most popular record, so that one seems, for whatever reason, to be the one to start at. But I would maybe pick Innocence Reaches personally, just because it's the newest one, and it feels the most fresh and closest to where I'm at right now.
Sweet, sweet. And then, so you mentioned something about learning from other people's experiences. And then, so as a performer, how do you learn from the audience every night? Sort of that give and take. And how do you sort of come back and workshop that?
Well, to be honest, it's kind of like what we do now. We hit the road and we do pretty much the same show every night. So it's kind of almost like a meditative process for us, because we kind of, I mean, it's a weird form of meditation, but like we sort of go into this other state of mind for whatever it is, 75 minutes or something. And I'm definitely not being myself. I'm not Kevin Barnes, or, like I couldn't really do that, or it just wouldn't be fun for me. Like it's more fun for me to like get into this other character, this other persona. So whatever that persona is learning from the audience, I don't really know, because when it's over and I'm back to being Kevin Barnes, it's a totally different experience, totally different life or something. So, but it is very encouraging and inspiring to see other people vibing on what we're doing and like dressing up and utilizing the opportunity in the same way that we are, to make it a special event and a special evening, a special moment in time, and an extraordinary moment in time. It's like not just your average Thursday night or Friday night or whatever. that it's like hopefully one of those high points of the month or whatever. I mean, it's definitely a high point for me whenever we play.
I'm sure it will be for the audience tonight. So you sort of mentioned something interesting back there. Where would you say that you are the most sort of yourself, Kevin? Like if you could pick like one sort of place or area, where would you say you're most in touch with yourself?
I guess when I'm creating something that feels pure and raw, and something that I feel like, oh, this is like my brain operating at the highest level.
And how would you say that your creativity has evolved over the 20 plus years that you've been making music?
Um, it's well, I feel like the sort of impetus for it each time is the same. This desire to express myself, but also to prove myself. I always have this chip on my shoulder or something, or this feeling like I got something to prove. Like I just take a lot of pride in making music and writing lyrics and coming up or trying to like come up with something that's different each time, and it's not just repeating the same ideas over and over again. So that challenge is really fulfilling, and it's always been there for me. It's the same sort of challenge and same sort of attention to detail and specifics and nuances, and but also just that need to escape from reality and enter the world of imagination. That pull has always been there for me from when I was like 15, first starting writing songs, and up till now it's the same, really.
And was that always music for you, sort of that pull, or? Sorry. Oh, sorry. No worries. Was it always music for you, or were you ever interested in visual art or anything else like that?
Yeah, it's pretty much always been music, just because that's organically the thing that has come the easiest for me. Like when I first started playing the guitar, I wasn't like a virtuoso. I've never been like a virtuoso on any instrument, but the guitar for some reason just felt right to me. And when I try to draw and stuff, it's just a joke. I'm horrible.
Same. And then so a big part of sort of your job in Of Montreal sort of being, I guess, the band leader, because you guys have had so many different people come in and out of the band. So how have you sort of learned to sort of be the leader of this creative unit, know when people are going to be a good fit, know when they might not be?
Well, I mean, for a long time, people were sort of like grandfathered in because they were the only ones that understood the music and wanted to do the music. And then when that first lineup sort of fell apart, it wasn't even really necessarily like the best. All of the people involved weren't necessarily the best ones to help me realize my vision. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, these are my friends that were helping me do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then that sort of fell apart, and then I was able to kind of like pick people just based on like their fit, like, oh, I like what he does on the bass, or I like what she does on the piano or whatever, and like just kind of pick people that way. But still, I mean, just the nature of indie rock, there's like people aren't going to do it for 40 years or whatever, so there's going to be turnover. And but I mean, like, there's one record that we made called Lousy with Sylvia and Breyer, and that one I wanted to do something more Americana.
Mm-hmm.
So I got this guy to play. I got this guy who was really good at playing sort of like country style hot licks or whatever, and then I got this other guy who was really good at pedal steel and all sorts of things, and just people that kind of fit that vibe. And then I don't know. I'm just always, I mean, because I work so much by myself, that if I'm going to ask somebody to do something, or to help me do something I can't do or whatever, then it'll be because they have a very specific talent that I don't have.
See, now I picture you as the person who would be making indie rock for the next 40 years, or making some sort of music for the next 40 years. So that's...
Well, for me, I'm a lifer, but everyone has like their own project,
True.
Most people will want to be doing their own thing, and they might help me for a period of time, but what they really want to be doing is their own thing. Just like if I was helping somebody else, I'd really be thinking about Montreal all the time. So I don't fault anybody at all, and there's no hard feelings. I love all the people that were ever involved with it, but it's sort of like, that's just kind of just the way it is.
Well, nice, nice. Well, a big part of touring is traveling, so I have to ask if you could sit next to someone on like a cross-country flight or a plane. I'm sorry, this is a hard turn. Who would you want to sit next to?
They have to be alive right now.
No, they can be dead.
Okay, well, I guess James Baldwin.
Oh, that would be a good one. If you could cover an album from front to back, what album would you want to sort of tackle?
Ugh, I don't know, maybe a Ramones record because I'm so lazy. It'd be easy.
So lazy. Well, nice, nice. And then who are you listening to right now? Who are some of the artists that are on your shuffle?
Well, probably the artists or whatever the project that I'm enjoying the most and the most influenced by recently is No Worries,
Hmm.
and been listening to that record. That's the Yes Loud is the record that I've listened to the most over the last year or so.
Nice, nice. Well, my guest today has been Kevin of Montreal. His most recent album, Innocence Reaches, is out now on Poly Vinyl. Also, keep an eye out for the Rune Husk EP. Kevin, thank you so much for the time.
My pleasure.